So my name is Peter Ngure, a winner of the 120 under 40 Next Generation of Family Planning Leaders, a Gates Leadership Accelerator winner, a DESIP Advocacy Advisor in Kenya, and the founder of Pathways Policy Institute. Kenya is a country that has a population of 47 million people and a fertility rate of about 3.9. Fertility rate means the number of children a woman has. So on average, we are talking about each woman having about 4 children. And I know most of you in your families have either 4 or something more than 4 from our nuclear families. And this number, the way the growth of the country is going, we are not able to sustain a growth rate of 3.9. We have counties like Garissa, which has 6.1, meaning each woman has 6 children. And that means a family that has 8 because of the father and the mother. If you compare such a family and you do a quick statistics on what we call the dependency ratio, this is the number of people who depend on those who are working, then it means this is a 2/6, which means it's about 60%. And this is why we have to have the conversations around family planning. What conversation is it about family planning? Especially when we talk in the 2 categories. There's the one we talk of married women. These are the women who really need to space their children, and so that they can be able to bring up children who are nutritionally right and who have been well breastfed, because we say you should breastfeed your children exclusively for 6 months, and you should at least wait 3 years. And why we say 3 years? So that the health of the mother can also recover. One of the things that we talk when we talk about contraceptives and family planning is not only about limiting the number of children you have, it's about having healthy children, having healthy mothers who can live even a longer age to be able to take care of their children. And in this country, as I mentioned, with 47 million people and moving to 2030, where we would want to reap our demographic dividends, then we will require to manage our population. Managing population and family planning does not mean not having children. It means taking care of getting children that you can take care of. As a woman, if you can take care of 5 and space them well in a span of 15 years, that's okay. If you can be able to get 2 and take care of them, because you need to progress in your career, you need also to take care of your children and they move to better schools and all that. So it has a lot of development implication, not just about contraceptive use. And then we talk about younger people. Younger people, why do they require contraceptive? In Kenya, the age in which sexual debut in Kenya has fallen from 18 years to 15 years now. That means on average, 15-year-olds are having sex. Then the conversation becomes, they are having sex. Why are we not helping them avoid teenage pregnancies? How can we help them not become pregnant at an early age? And the only way we can do this is to support them with information. And if they want services, they get services. And one of the things we have learned is that the more information you give to younger people from the age of 10, what we call the young adolescent, to the age of 15, the more they delay their sexual debut, the more they delay when they start engaging in sex. So we need to talk to them early. And comprehensive sexuality education, when we start talking about family planning at that age, we say it's age appropriate. If a girl is 5 to 10 years, there is an information she needs to know. If she's 10 to 15, there's some new information. If she's anything above 15, because the reproductive age has been quoted globally as 15 to 49, then anybody between 15 to 49 requires a conversation around family planning. The reason why investing in family planning is critical is because family planning saves lives. And if you think about infant mortality, maternal mortality, right now we are talking about 362 women dying in every 100,000 births in this country. Saving these women is a critical role of everybody. It's our business. It is not government business, it's not religious leaders' business, it's everyone's business to save these mothers. If you lose 362 mothers, then it means you have affected 362 families, and if our fertility rate is at 3.9, then multiply that by 4. You'll have affected that number of families. And if we are to be able to invest in family planning for the next few years as a country and ensure that this conversation is held between ourselves and young people, religious, everybody talking about family planning, contraceptive, and about sex, we would be able to save 6,000 lives of women every year. We will be able to save about 10,000 newborn, neonatal, and child mortality would go down by that percentage. Our teenage pregnancy has shot from 18% to 30%. We can be able to bring it down to about 15% if we are able to do this. Human beings should really care about what's happening around reproductive health. I'll give two basic examples. Of West Pokot last week, 107 girls between the age of 13 to 15 being paraded in a facility because they are pregnant. This is in one small location. And last year during COVID, we had more than 20,000 young girls getting pregnant in a span of 3 months in this country. These are girls who are initially in school. Now they have to drop out of school because they have to take care of the babies, they have to take care of their pregnancy until they get back. And our laws, whereas our laws allow girls to come back, the stigma of a young mother getting back to school from her friends, from her groupings is just too much. And also because our cultures have shown us that anytime, whether it's a 13-year-old or 15-year-old gives birth, she moves from her age set to an older age set. So she sits with our mothers. She will no longer be sitting with girls her age. She will be in the village there sitting in chamas, our mama. So she has lost her age, she has lost her childhood. And so we need to start thinking, how do we help this girl not get pregnant at this early age? But also the issue of abortion is a big problem in this country. In the last documentation around abortion, we had about 400,000 abortions in this country in 1 year. I mean, we lost or killed or whatever we want to call it, 400,000 children. Why? Simply because we could not allow ourselves as a nation to address a small problem of these young girls and these young boys are having sex. And there is also this notion around that girls are getting pregnant with older men. And statistics show that only 39% of those teenage girls are getting pregnant with older men. 61% is getting pregnant with other teenage boys. And so we need to have a conversation between the boys and the girls and talk about their sexuality, their sexual debut, which is happening very early, and of course how they can limit so that they grow older, they get life goals that they needed to realize before they start getting pregnant. We have no problem them getting pregnant at 22, 23, 24, or whatever age they choose after 18. But we need to protect them. As a country, we need to protect our children at that age. And so the conversation why it's important is because we cannot keep losing a generation. Because right now, if you think of the 100,000 girls who will not go back to school post-COVID because they were pregnant, then we have lost a whole generation. Right now, the conversation around family planning, contraceptives, young people access to commodities has all been left to government. And now we are pushing teachers, churches. The conversation has not been held by the people who young people listen to. Young people listen to teachers in matters education. Anything post-education, they feel it's my life. They feel their parents are out of touch with the realities on the ground right now. They feel the religious leaders are actually not even focusing on them. They are more on taking them to heaven or wherever they want to take them. But then young people are always online. Young people are always listening to music. Young people are always watching YouTube and Snapchat and doing all that, TikTok and everything. And this is where now influencers come and you become very important in the young person's life because you are their role model. You are the person who they listen to and they take your word. When you say, let's use contraceptives, or when you say go back to school, and when you say you are able because you are a young person and you have all the capacities, they listen and they want to follow that kind of a conversation. And having that kind of a following, then you have an impact on these people's lives. And so we are looking at influencers to talk to these young people directly, to give them the information. The statistics I'm reading here are okay to be said in panels, in big offices, in brochures. I can do a PowerPoint. But if these statistics came out in a song or in a poem or by an influencer speaking out there to young people, they will take it up. If you remember when we were growing up, in the US, there was Let's Talk About Sex Baby kind of a song. And that song, if you read the history of where that song came from and what impact it had for the 20 years it was played on US radios, it's the one that led to even the age of consent for use contraceptive or young people being lowered and allowing young people to use contraceptives. We have had the songs like Sex on the Beach. I mean, we have had a lot of these conversations. So all we need is to tune the kind of conversation we are having to ensure that it is influencing change, it is bringing a better conversation around us, and we can then uplift our young people through the kind of connection we have with them.